Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys the official update that we have regarding the upcoming manga chapter 2 Blue Vortex chapter 19 via the official Naruto website. This will be update number 1 of 2 by the website itself in order to build up to the release of the manga chapter, which this month the chapter comes out on the 19th instead of the 20th. So it's officially that time of the month where we are on spoiler watch with the full spoilers of the chapter. Likely dropping any day now since the V-Jump magazine cover has officially leaked out. Dragon Ball Super is returning for a new chapter this month, so really big deal for V-Jump magazine. It's an extra big issue this month. So as always, depending on when we get the full spoilers that leak out, the chapter review will either be out on the day of the official release or a day or two after, since the chapter review editor does need time to maintain the quality you guys have seen with the 2 Blue Vortex chapter reviews. Lastly, over on the community tab of the channel, we have the community response featuring your predictions for the upcoming chapter. So head over there and leave a comment for a chance to be in the community response video, dropping in a few days, since every time I do one, people usually message me and say, I didn't know that this was a thing. Here's your chance if you want to be in the video. But for now, let's dig into what we have here. And I'll be the first to say the official Naruto website dropped the ball here in terms of hype. If this was supposed to be a Valentine's gift, they can have that one back. So normally we get a whole page, usually the start of the chapter or the middle of the chapter, in order to drum up interest in the chapter itself. But this month, the official website, they only dropped the cover page, which has Moegi on it. And my knee-jerk reaction is the same stance that you're probably having right now, which is, holy hell, this was a waste of time staying up to see what the sneak peek might be. But then I took a moment and I literally slept on it. And then I went back over the cover and noticed the fact that this cover ended up having a mix of kanji and hiragana on the cover. And when this happened last time, we ended up getting on the cover that quote from Midsummer's Night Dream, and that ended up being a controversial chapter where the wars between Sarda fans and Class Rep fans, they started breaking out, and it forever became known as the Crash Out chapter or the Gaslighter chapter, depending on what stance you took following Sumire's eventual actions that we saw. Well, on a mere whim, I reached out to a translator I trust, not the primary one, who helps me out normally, since I've not gotten a message back from them yet. And I had this person break down what was written here, which, reminder, Japanese is super context heavy language, and not everything translates verbatim into English, meaning a lot of the translations you read, even on the official release, they're at the discretion of the translator to convey the overall tone of what's being said as best as possible using English words. And without us having the full context of what happens in the chapter, you can't piece everything together, but there's enough to look at on the surface level that should alarm you as a Konohamaru fan if you look at the mix of kanji and hiragana in terms of what it's saying. So it's saying the following: Konohamaru-chan, in sleep, the shadows yearn. Since ancient times, the beast warriors have been with us. Can they complete their mission safely? Now, the word yearn is the thing that stands out here and makes me worry for Konohamaru, and I'm gonna explain to you why. You have Moegi on the cover of a chapter called Konohamaru-chan. Matsuri was just demanding to know if Moegi was the one who Konohamaru said is allowed to call him Konohamaru-chan, and she looks pissed off as she did ask him that question, and she looked like she was about to attack. To yearn means to want somebody or something very much, particularly if you cannot have it, which, coming on the heels of what we just saw with Matsuri realizing it was Moegi who Konohamaru was thinking about, it has multiple meanings to it on the deeper level. And sleep refers to Moegi, who is asleep inside of the tree she sealed away in. But it also is a reference to both Moegi's feelings for Konohamaru as well as Matsuri's feelings, which are fueled by Moegi. Based solely on that, it does appear as if Kooky Konohamaru is going to be front and center in this chapter, potentially battling Matsuri and potentially his own feelings for Moegi, that he appeared to be coming to a recognition based on what we saw in the last chapter and the way that he was thinking back to all the signs of Moegi's romantic interest that he missed all those years ago, which is the cruel nature of the position he's in. But that's not the only troubling thing out of this chapter's cover text that makes me worry about Konohamaru as well. So the talk about can they complete their mission safely is the next part that has me a little worried. It's expected for this to be phrased this way. After all, it is a battle shonen, so by default, the narrator is supposed to drop lines like that. But the circumstances here are where I think Konohamaru fans should be a little worried as children sleeping in the same tent as Scoutmaster Jigen. It's one thing to go into this chapter expecting Ryu to fight against Sarada, Mitsuki, Yodo, and Areya. We all expected that based on how the last chapter ended, but Ryu, despite having a stated bloodlust towards any shinobi, he seemed to be more amused by their plan to try and betray him than he was bloodlusted. And as the youngest of the Shinju, you run the risk that he is more open to playing around, the same way that, say, my 5-year-old nephew likes to play with his food while sitting at the dinner table if you don't remind him to use his fork and his spoon when eating. Ryu gives off that same vibe. With Matsuri, that's a whole different animal altogether, because she went from feeling strong feelings of love at the sight of Konohamaru, being enamored at the sight of him, heart beating strongly as they sat together, to getting furious when she realized that he was not just thinking about another woman, but also potentially in love with another woman, which I know that's cliche. And if you can't see where I'm going with this, allow me to be blunt. I'm talking about a potential rage amp that comes from this, which makes Konohamaru being put in more danger than the others. You can deal with a Ryu who, while he does have bloodlust, he hasn't necessarily shown it. But if you are Konohamaru, dealing with a pissed off Matsuri alone, particularly one who is scorned and in a jealous rage, that's something that's going to make any battle harder to deal with, since you have no backup unlike the others who are fighting as a team. Either Konohamaru has a silver tongue of a politician or he is cooked. Now, the other part of the translation that we have, the line about since ancient times Beast Warriors have been with us, there are a few translations you can go with. This is probably the one that's going to change the most once you get the whole context of the chapter, and some things will be switched around. But since ancient times, the Beast Warriors have fought alongside us. The Beast Warriors have existed with us since antiquity, since ancient times, or since long ago. They have walked among us. So depending on the context and the nuance of the chapter itself, the translation can be adjusted slightly while keeping a similar meaning. Again, Japanese is super context heavy. The phrase, though, is something that it feels like it has a hidden meaning to it, just like Midsummer Night's Dream quote that we referenced earlier, which ended up being a play on the entire chapter itself. You have the yokai links, in particular Divine Beast, and Matsuri is made from a divine tree, which the divine tree has ended up evolving due to code using the Karma Seal, which is an ancient power of the Otsutsuki, alluding to an awakened Shinju as being the warriors that are potentially mentioned here, because they have taken on human characteristics representing different types of love. It also represents the age-old force that Konoha shinobi might have to fight, the Shinju, who are tools of the Otsutsuki, ancient beings who have existed since ancient times. Only now they're having to confront a new version of these threats. The awakened Shinju are not the Ten Tails that we once knew. In short, Kooky Konohamaru might be cooked based on this chapter, floating up to that great ninja sky to join hippie Hiruzen, who has the hookah in his mouth, or Scoutmaster Jigen. But for now, we can only really speculate based on that. Again, the spoilers will be out in full the next few days, and the chapter drops officially on the 19th. Depending on when the spoilers leak, I'll have the review up either the day of release or a couple of days after. Really only did this one because the text on the chapter cover grabbed my attention. I wanted to kind of bring something to your attention. In the meantime, click here to watch this video from Naruto Explained, or click here to watch my every S rank and national rank hunter in solo leveling explained from my Anime Explained channel, where I discuss non-Naruto content in the form of video essays, explained videos such as that one, chapter reviews, and so much more.